Greetings, everybody. Today I'm doing a solid for two buddies of mine, Adam Bennett and Sam Phillips, because they own one of the coolest independent publishing houses on earth, Zombie Pirate Publishing. I just love them. I mean, of all the independent publishing houses I've been dealing with and I've personally encountered, I think they do a great job at editing, formatting, and choosing the best stories. I think they're wonderful. I want to give them a huge shout out today, so stay tuned. We're going to get into one of their latest double features, Neo Noir. All right, be right back.
We go!
Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome back to another episode of my book review channel. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing a huge solid for my two buddies over at Zombie Pirate Publishing, and they have yet to disappoint me. I've read almost every single one of the books in their catalog. I get most of them, honestly, on my Kindle, but they sent me this one because they wanted to see what I had to say about it, and I loved the very first book out of this because it's a crime double feature. So the first one is a book by William Thatch. It is titled Fugace, Espoir. I'll hold it up because it's such a unique title, Fugace, Espoir, and the second book is titled Preston Noir by Sean O'Leary. So I was so impressed with the very first novella in here that I wanted to just dedicate this entire video just to that one. Okay, so this first one is by a writer, I believe his pen name is William Thatch. Now, it's French. The book is based in Paris. I'm probably going to pronounce a lot of these names wrong, so bear with me during the rest of this video. So as I said, I wanted to make sure that I did this in two parts because this first novella was wonderful. So, William Thatch, if you're listening, you did a great job. I was stunned immediately, right on the first page, just by how good this guy is. He's just a wonderful writer. Very first paragraph, June 25th, 2011. Irvin Erickson lay curled in the break room beneath a copy of yesterday's newspaper. His snoring, once described to him as being akin to a chainsaw revving, had cleared the room. He hadn't bothered to change out of his sea green scrubs after surgery. A couple of droplets of brown, dry blood in his cuffs weren't enough to put off the sleep he needed after 24 hours in the job. So right away, you get a good idea of who this character is and how gritty this book is going to be. This character, I'd say he's probably the main character. There's two of them in here. There's Irvin and there's Celeste. Now, they're a couple who are engaged to be married. He's a doctor. She's a lawyer. They met in an orphanage way back in the day, back in Paris. He was an actual orphan, but this particular orphanage also hosted children, just the children of aristocrats or famous politicians from around the world who just so happened to be visiting. So it was a well-run place. So these well-to-do people could trust that their children would be taken care of there. So that's how the main character met Celeste. She was the daughter of this guy named Benedict, and the story gets pretty deep because we learn that her father was killed by the crime boss in Paris. So he's basically called the devil of Paris, this guy. And again, I have to resort to Monsieur Cloutier. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. So he's the great antagonist in this whole novella. What happens is we get an idea of this thing. So there's a lot of murder victims that come into the hospital where Irvin works. Right away, he's just kind of complaining about how he has to work overtime because he's always healing the bullet wounds or everything else of these victims of the crime that's just surrounding this guy, Monsieur Cloutier. And then all of a sudden, the chapter switches, so we get chapter by chapter. One of them is Irvin, and the other one is his fiancée, Celeste. She is involved in this very gutsy unit of people who are trying. Now, they're going to break the law because every single time someone goes after this guy, Cloutier, jurors find themselves dead, witnesses find themselves dead. So they're like, look, this guy, he keeps finding all these loopholes. So in order to beat him, we're going to have to break the law ourselves. So that's what Celeste does. So she didn't want to. The head lawyer of her firm is announcing, we've got him. He was arrested, and we're the ones that we want to put him behind bars. But that particular person wasn't interested in being the one to stick his hand up. He just assumed someone else would. To his dismay, everyone was saying, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting my family at risk. I'm not putting my loved ones and my friends at risk. Because this guy, Monsieur Cloutier, is well known for having people killed. And that's how he gets away with so many crimes. But Celeste, her father being a murder victim of this individual, says she's had enough. So she decides to raise her hand. She's going to personally try to prosecute this man. So her and a group of people who just are done with it decide that they're going to do this. So that's how the story goes. It goes from Irvin's perspective, who's basically a doctor who's just overworked, and just needs to get a good night's sleep, to Celeste, who's a lawyer who is also overworked. Now, these two, they're very in love with each other, but they never get to spend too much time together. So this novel was really gritty. I loved the way he wrote it. It was just so well written. I had both the characters. I had the entire scene in my head, and I wanted to know what was going on. It took me 2 days to read it. I just plowed right through it because I really liked it. There's a strange character that comes along, and he causes a little bit of a problem for Celeste and her team. His name is Urvard. I have it written down because I have no idea if I'm saying it right. Urvard. Who knows? It's all French. Anyways, he's a hitman. He was hired to kill somebody by this Monsieur Claudier. And for some weird reason that we never disclosed because he's a shady character, he decides that he wants to testify against Monsieur Claudier, so they need his testimony. And he's causing a lot of problems. He's saying he's going to speak, but he's not speaking. And it's really strange what happens because we never really get to the bottom of why he was doing all this. Now, I don't want to give away too much, but what happens at the very end? It turns out that Irvin, because the whole time I thought Celeste was the main protagonist, it turns out Irvin is the main protagonist because he's the one that really wants to get this Claudier guy off the streets, and he wants to do it by any means possible. He wants to use violence to get it, and he's not a violent man. He's a doctor. He saves lives, doesn't end lives. But he's had enough of this guy's crime ring. The only problem in the book that I have is at the very end, he decides that he wants to be the big hero. Now, it could have been like a new superhero. The guy that's helping Irvin, he's really good with technology, so I'm getting like kind of almost like a Batman vibe because it was so gritty. It's almost like a Gotham City, but it takes place in Europe. The guy is so good with technology, his sidekick, his buddy Donnie, that he's able to like pick people's pockets with drones and everything else and video surveil everything, and it's just amazing what he can do with his technology. And he can find information, and he's got these earpieces, and you can just listen to people from the other side of the English Channel as they're speaking and everything else, and it's wonderful. So we got him, and then we got the guy who's got the guts and the courage and the reason to want to go after Monsieur. I wanted to see what was going to happen. I wanted to see what he was going to do because he almost decided to be one of those notorious superheroes you read about in like a DC or a Marvel comic universe, you know? And I wanted to see what was going to happen. So I was a little disappointed in that because it was only 183 pages. It could have at least been another 100 just to see what was going to happen next. However, this kind of a cliffhanger kind of leads me to believe that we're going to be getting a little bit more out of this William Thatch. So hopefully he's going to see this review and go, okay, I hear what he's saying. This guy's saying he wants more. Well, maybe other people will watch this video and go, okay, I'm going to read this book. And they're going to say the same thing. I want more. And when I leave a review on Amazon for this book, I'm going to say that same thing. I want more. So hopefully, if we get a little bit of noise going, we can prompt this guy to maybe at least tell us what happens next, because it was a damn good book. I loved it. And like I said, I was right in it. It was so gritty. I wanted to find out what was going to happen next. I want to find out if they get this bastard. That's when you know you're reading a good book. That's when you know when you're in the hands of a good writer, is when you want to find out what happens next. So you keep turning the page. Like I said, it took me about, 2 days, less than 2 days. So I only sat down to read it like a handful of times. I just couldn't stop. I would just sit there for a couple hours and read. So, yeah, it was a quick read. I'd probably say about 4 hours to get through it. But it was worth it. It was really worth it. It was really good. And I don't say that about a lot of independent publishing houses because a lot of independent writers and a lot of independent publishers, it's a waste of time reading them. Life is too short to read a bad book. Sometimes I'll just read the look inside feature and the first page. I go, no, this person has no idea what they're talking about. They don't know how to write, and they shouldn't have put their stuff out there so early. Now it's going to be even harder for them to get a contract later on in life. This guy, William Thatch, I think we're going to see some great things from him, and I can't wait to see what we're going to see with Sean O'Leary's work next. So I'm going to finish reading a book I had started, and I'm going to be releasing a book review on that one next. And then I'm diving right in to see what Sean O'Leary has to say. Keep an eye out for that review video. And until then, guys, you could have clicked on any book review video. For some weird-ass reason, you decided to click on mine. I appreciate the hell out of you for it. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to recommend any books that you want to see me review next. All right, guys, you have an amazing day.